He's ready for some science fiction and fantasy because it's Science Fiction Fantasy Week. Yay! Back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be taking advantage of the hashtag for Science Fiction Fantasy Week and tell you about some of my favorite books in fantasy and science fiction. And I mean, I have more favorite books. I have so many, but I'm going to skip all the well-known ones like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings because we already know about them, and I'm sure you already know what they're about. And that also includes Harry Potter and Hunger Games, Divergent. I'm going to skip on those because there's tons of videos online, so I'm sure you can find one out there and you'd be happy with those. So, on to some of my favorites. I'm going to start out with Firelight. And if you love dragons, this is a really good book about this girl, and she comes from a race of Draki, which is kind of like a modern day dragons because dragons were actually extinct a long time ago. They're kind of like the ancestors. And so, and these Draki people are kind of like they have packs and they have their own pride. And so the name of the character is Jacinda. Jacinda. Jacinda, she breaks one of the major rules, and that is flying on an unrestricted time, and she actually exposes herself to a human. And these humans are also like hunters, dragon hunters, and so they were looking for her. And so she breaks one of the rules and she gets punished. And so her mom didn't want her to deal with the punishment because it seems like it will be like one of the worst punishments or something. And so she fears for her life, and she takes her and her twin sister, and then they go. And then so they move to this town, this middle of nowhere desert town. And so Jacinda, she's forced to pretend to be human and go to a normal school. And there she runs into that guy that she exposed to, which was a dragon form. And so she must pretend that she's a normal person. And she's like, we never met before. But somehow things go crazy, and she also comes to has to decide whether or not love is worth fighting for in order to protect your people. So it's a really good book, and there's dragons and they fly, and it's really good. So, and there's even romance in it. So for anybody who's looking for a summer romance, this is a good book to check out. Another book I would totally check out. I love reading, and if you love steampunk, The Girl in the Steel Corset. And this is a really good book that takes place in London. And this girl, the main character is, what is her name? Oh, Finley. Finley Jane. And Finley Jane, she is a maid. And so she's like, one night she accidentally kills somebody in order to protect somebody else. And so she's like on the run. And then while she was running in the streets, trying to escape the crime that she committed, she runs into these two guys. And one of them turns out to be the Duke of London. And it also turns out that him and his friends, they like to solve murders. And they solve crime and they do mysteries. And so she gets tangled up in that. But at the same time, for her, she has to deal with what she has. It's like a split personality problem where part of her is like her normal self, where she's like a nice person who's like sassy and she's badass. But then one day or next thing you know, she's like, if you like, let's say you hit her in the face, she turns into her bad side. And so her bad side tends to be mischievous and cause trouble. And so that's kind of like one of the things that she has to deal with throughout the book. And I totally enjoyed this book because one is steampunk. I like serial killer murder mysteries, and I like the characters, and it's fun. And you even got a badass character female character who knows how to do inventions and stuff. And they all have like their own special abilities. So it's really fun. So if you're totally interested in it, The Girl in the Steel Corset. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm back with another video. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm back with another video, and I was inspired by Science Fiction and Fantasy Week. And so I decided to talk about some of my own favorites. And if you like science fiction and fantasy, I would like to know about it. So, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, I was very inspired by the hashtag Science Fiction Fantasy Week, and so I decided to talk about some of my own personal favorites and show you some of the books. And just to let you know, I'm not going to talk about every single one of my favorites because, especially the ones that are very well known, like The Hobbit, Hunger Games, Sarah J. Maas books, Game of Thrones and stuff, because we all heard about them. So I'm sure you guys know what they're about, and you heard they're good books, or maybe you don't like the books or something, but you know enough about it. So I'm going to talk about some of the lesser well-known ones that are kind of like underhyped, or maybe they were hyped at one point. So getting started with the first book is Firelight by Sophie Jordan. And this is a really good book if you like dragons, and it's about this girl named Jacinda who is kind of like a draggy, which is kind of like in modern day dragons because dragons were actually extinct. And so she gets in trouble because she commits this horrible act because she breaks all the rules from flying at a certain time that nobody's allowed to fly. And she also, one day she was flying and there were dragon hunters out there, and so she accidentally exposes herself to a hunter who pretty much is an interesting character, I might add. And so, because her mom is feared for her life and her daughter, other twin daughter, she decides that she's going to take them both and take them out of town and go to some middle of nowhere where they can't find them. And so they end up living in this desert town. And Jacinda, who's not happy about this, must pretend to be a human completely and forget about her dragon ways. And she must go to school. But then at school, she meets the guy who actually happens to be one of the hunters that she exposed to. And so she has to struggle with her temptation to be really into him because he's really good looking. And also, she also has to protect her family from being exposed at the same time. So, it's a really good book if you like dragons and some romance. Another book that I would like to recommend is one of my favorite books, and if you are into steampunk, I recommend The Girl in the Steel Corset. And it's about this girl named Finley who lives in like in the early 1800s steampunk in London, and so she was a maid, but then she commits a crime, and so she is on the run. And during that night that she's on the run, she meets these two guys who happen to be there, and they run into them. And then next she knows, she meets these guys. Turns out to be like part of a team of people who solve crime and murder mysteries, and one of them is known as the Duke of London. And so she gets to help them, but at the same time, she has a secret that she has two personalities because, like, one part of her is like the nice Finley, and she has this other Finley that she is a mischievous person that likes to cause trouble. And it's kind of like a Dr. Hyde and Jekyll kind of situation. So it's kind of like one of those things where one time she's like good and the other time she's not. But it turns out that all the characters actually have their own abilities that they can do. One of them is like has super strength. One of them knows how to use inventions and also talk to them. Another one, who's the Duke of London, actually has this power to deal with energy, and he can also like see the afterlife in some way, which is kind of cool, and see energy and stuff. So it's really a good book, and if you're interested in steampunk, it's a really good book. And plus the cover is really cool, see? Just like. So another book is like one of my all-time favorite books, which is part of a trilogy, is The Named. And for anybody who hasn't heard of the Guardians of Time trilogy at all, it's a really good book with time travel, and it's about this boy named Ethan who's part of the Guardians, and they pretty much are in charge of keeping time safe from the Order. And the Order is kind of like an evil force that just wants to wreak havoc on the world. They want to make history work in their own favor. They want criminals to go free. They do stuff. And so Ethan also has this new job to train this other girl named Isabel. And so they both like go on adventures. They go on time traveling missions to stop the Order from doing crazy stuff. And they actually had this kind of cool actually because when they time travel is actually through their sleep. So when they're sleeping, their dream self actually does all the missions, and it's really cool. So if you're interested in time travel, this is a good book to pick up. So, and I do think it should be a movie because think about the time travel scenes; it's awesome. Another book that I would like to mention is Neil Gaiman book because you can't talk about science fiction or fantasy without Neil Gaiman in it. You can't. So, and Neverwhere is a really good book. It's about this guy named Richard, and he lives in London, and he pretty much one night he's like walking down the street, and he sees this girl who's like bleeding on the street, and so he tries to help her and takes her to his apartment, and her name is Dor, and so he tries to help her out, but then the next day, it turns out that she disappears, and somehow these two guys, some goons who pretty much are the reason why she's bleeding on the street, are after her, and they're like, "You better find her for us, because or else we'll find you." And so he is like scared, but then what things got worse is that he's invisible in his own world, so nobody knows he exists, and he's like, "What happened to me? It's because of that door chick." So he goes through, find out, trying to look for her, but then ends up in some older alternate dimension in the world of London, and it's like through tunnels, drain sewers, and on the rooftops. And there's he finds her, and then it turns out that there's evil angels out there and crazy stuff going on, and it's a really good book. So it's really good. So if you like that kind of thing, dark fantasy type of stuff, there's even angels in there, so it's good. And another book is pretty much my all-time favorite book. It's Downsiders. And Downsiders takes place in New York City, and there's this girl named Lindsay, and she's going to New York because her mom's going on a safari with her boyfriend, and so Lindsay needs a place to live. And so she moves in with her dad and her brother Todd, who pretty much is not a nice brother. But then in New York one night, she meets this boy named Talon. And Talon turns out that he's actually part of this world, the underneath world called Downside, which is kind of like below the streets of New York. So it's kind of like through tunnels, drain sewers, old subways. It's pretty much like that. And so he's like, "Why don't you come with me?" And so she goes, but then later she finds out that this is kind of like forbidden. It's a forbidden law to bring a topsider to the downside world. So he gets punished for it, and things go crazy. And also, they also find out secrets about the world and things that from the topside world could cause damage to the downside world, and it's up to them to protect it. So you should totally check it out. It's a really good book. And another book is for anybody who's starting to get into science fiction but just wants something like familiar to them. And if you are very nerdy and love Star Wars and always want to read all their books but don't know where to start, Thrawn Trilogy. And this is the first book, Heir to the Empire, and I like it because, one, this is kind of like the first Star Wars book I read, and it has all my favorite characters: Princess Leia, Han Solo, Luke, everybody. And it takes 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So you pretty much are like picking up afterwards, and the world is still kind of like rebuilding because after Darth Vader left, it's like in ruins, and they're trying to rebuild the Republic, and they're doing a lot of diplomatic missions, and there's a new villain in town, and his name is Thrawn, and he doesn't wear a mask. So it's like one of the villains that actually doesn't. So which is interesting, and he's kind of creepy too. So it's a really good book. So if you like Star Wars, that's a good book for you. So yeah, I got books for everybody. And lastly, another space adventure, if you like science fiction, is Ender's Game. And Ender's Game is one of my favorites because there's a lot of action in it, and it's a YA, and it has space, and it takes place. The world is at war with the alien race because the aliens invaded them. So they're at war, and they have nothing else. except it's an academy that trains special genius kids that have more intelligence and stuff, and so they recruit Ender, who pretty much is like the youngest out of all of them, and they pretty much see him as like the last hope. That he has like that thing that everybody needs. And so he goes through training to this academy school, which is kind of like military school, but with some space technology, and it's really good. But don't watch the movie because the movie's really bad. But this movie is really good, and it's awesome. So those are some of my favorites. Let me know in the comments below if you see any of these books that you read, and if you like any of them, and also let me know about some of your favorite books because I'd love to hear about them because who doesn't like science fiction and fantasy? So that is always a good thing. And if you're interested in any of these books, I got links below, affiliate links to Amazon and stuff, so you can just check them out. And if you like this video, click on the thumbs up. And if you want to keep up with this channel, click on the subscribe button. So until next time, keep on reading.